Are you a musician slash producer? Are you looking to boost your sound design skills? Are you interested in establishing new revenue sources because none of your streaming profiles are set up with banking details, so you're not technically making any money off the music you put out? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to the only drum sound design tutorial you'll ever need, or TODSDZN for short. Before we begin, I might just mention that obviously there's no one way to make drums. These are just some techniques that I like to use. You can even disregard everything I'm about to say if you really want to, in which case I'm not entirely sure why you're here, but I'm hoping you can at least use some of these tips as a starting point if you're getting into drum synthesis for the first time, or you're looking for some pointers or inspiration if you want to improve. I'm going to be using Serum for most of this, but you can use pretty much any synthesizer. And if you're wondering why my Serum looks so fucking sexy, this is my official Disphing branded Serum skin, which you can cop for free at the link in the description. Anyway, let's get into it already. God. Let's start with the basics. So a kick at its core is pretty much just a sine wave. Wait, there's more to it than that. It's a sine wave with a downward pitch envelope and volume envelope. Wow, look at that, we did it. But we can do a bit more, don't you think? Let's adjust the range of the pitch envelope so that it starts from higher up. Okay, now it just kind of sounds like a laser. That is not what we want, unless of course it is, in which case, good job. I'm going to use my best friend Fruity Parametric EQ2 to have a look at the frequency spectrum. If we play our kick drum, you can see the tail end is going way lower than it needs to. And there are two ways we can go about fixing this. The first way would be to simply add a high pass filter at around 20 Hz, which in my opinion does the best job at cleaning it up, but results in a shorter tail end. The other option is to go and adjust the pitch envelope again to something that looks more reasonable. We're going to use a combination of these two just because I feel like it. I'm also going to shorten the initial transient like this because that's also contributing to the laser-like sound we have going on. That's a little better. So now we can pretty much process this however we want. Want to saturate it a little bit? Yeah, why not? Want to add some noise? Sure. Want to layer it with the high end of someone else's kick? Go for it. Very often when you hear an EDM snare, it's usually a combination of two things. This tonal component known as the body, and a noise component known as the tail. So let's make those things. So this also requires a lot of experimentation with the length and the pitch of each part. It all just kind of depends on personal preference and what you think will work best in your own music. Okay, not the worst possible starting point. Let's try distorting it a little, see if that takes us anywhere. Yeah, if you want to make it more zappy, you can add a slight pitch envelope to the body, kind of like what we did for our kick drum. If you're using Serum, chances are the noise sample you're using is mono. The in-harms folder has some stereo noise, but they do have some weird filtering stuff going on, so unless you want that kind of quality, you might want to steer clear from those. If you're an FL user, the noise in 3x oscillator is stereo, so I just use that most of the time. Anyway, back to snares. Similar to kick drums, or any drum for that matter, once we have a bass line, we can pretty much layer whatever we want with it. Add a bit of reverb, distort it more, add some OTT, layer some Foleys, I don't know. So if you really think about it, hi-hats are just kind of noise, you know? So let's get some noise. Nice. Does not sound good though. Let's have a look at the frequency spectrum again. Okay, so there's a lot of unnecessary low-end action going on. We don't really want that, so we're just gonna cut it out. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. If you listen to any acoustic hi-hat samples, you'll notice a very clear metallic quality. Now you may be wondering, how do we go about doing that? And I have two answers to this question. So you might remember in my highest building remake tutorial when I said, okay, now you have to make this sound metallic as f***. Add a bunch of really short delays and randomly automate the duration. The thing that was really making it sound metallic was actually this Valhalla Supermassive right here. That is essentially acting as a reverb with a really small room size and a longer decay. This is answer number one. If we put a Valhalla Supermassive on our hi-hats, turn the warp and density knob all the way up, the mod rate knob all the way down, set the feedback knob to some high amount, and play around with the delay and mod depth knobs, as well as the delay mode, you can get some really cool metallic sounds. Now, Valhalla Supermassive is a free plugin, but what if you can't get it for some reason and you have to make do with stock plugins? Guess what, loser? You can do this in Fruity Reverb too. Kinda. My second answer to this is multi-band delay. This is a new plugin that comes with FL Studio 21, and I've only recently realized how cool it is. Here, watch this. If we set the filter mode to linear phase, set the scale knob to something like this, and enable this thingy, turn the feedback knob up and draw a random curve. It's crazy. I believe in Ableton you can get similar results if you use Corpus. And also, you don't have to use these techniques for hi-hats. Like, you could probably get some really cool percussion sounds with these. But the main takeaway here is that 2022 me was lying to all of you. Quick addendum, this is unscripted. So if you listen to like 808 open hi-hats in particular, you can kind of hear that it's like noisy, but not actual like white noise. This is a technique I learned from a Barely Alive tutorial. If I find it, I'll put it up on screen and in the description. But basically, if you get a very detuned square wave and then high pass it, you can kind of get the same effect. So if you want to add variety to any of your noisier samples, just know that there's more than one way to get noise, if that makes sense. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. The best starting point for a clap sample is with noise, like with most drums, actually, now that I think about it. So let's get some noise, and while we're at it, we'll put a volume envelope on it. Okay, now how can we improve upon this? Well, let's think about, okay, when you think of like an applause sound or like some crowd noises, what do those sound like? You know, that kind of like, you know, like... So let's mimic that kind of timbre with an EQ adjustment. Better? One thing I should also mention is that, at least while you're starting out, it's a very good idea to use the waveforms of existing samples as reference when making your own. For instance, if we take this 808 clap, you can see there are these little transients and then a final kind of longer tail transient. Let's try to recreate that with our volume envelope. That doesn't sound too bad. Now, again, same deal, just throw on whatever effects you want after this. In my case, I added some distortion and reverb, and this is an instance where layering up some Foley's almost always sounds good. Make a kick, and then change the pitch envelope. Make a kick, and then put reverb on it. Make a hi-hat, and then put reverb on it. Congratulations, we have now made every drum in existence. Now go upload them to Gumroad and charge $50 for them. Or alternatively, if you haven't heard, I recently started a music community called Blancnote, and we're going to be holding an event there soon that, upon signing up, will let you submit samples to a Discord channel, which will then be released as a free community sample pack. The website's linked in the description, the Discord server linked over there will have more info about the event. I've sunken so many hours into this project, and it'd be a bit embarrassing if the first event we ever hold there flops. So your support is greatly, greatly appreciated. But yeah, I did not write an outro, so stay safe or whatever. Goodbye. Bye.